and welcome back to another episode of the greatest show in the galaxy, the show where I, the curator, discuss my personal favorite show of all time, personal favorite franchise of all time, Doctor Who. And today we are continuing with another glorious month of just talking about history and historical events and historical people with a man making a historical return to his usual place. Soda back in his natural habitat. How are you doing, sir?
I'm happy to be back both on the show and in my room. As much as I had fun doing it on the couch, I was becoming way more lazier. So I moved it back into the room. Now I just got to clean it.
Yeah, I wonder why they call these big couches that, only fit one person and you put them in front of a TV screen a lazy boy.
That's what they call a lazy boy over there?
What? I thought that's the general name for lazy boy.
Oh, no. So you've seen Friends, right?
Yeah, what Chandler and Joey had. That's a lazy boy, right?
That is a lazy boy, but that's a single seat.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Well, you were talking about. I thought you were talking about what you're sitting on. I'm like,
no, I was talking about a lazy boy.
Oh, well, I'll be damned.
So I think we've already less than 2 minutes in. We've already hit our first on the show.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It made for some good fun and hopefully entertaining content.
Folks, bit of a warning, don't ever operate heavy machinery without proper hearing protection.
What is that in reference to?
Me driving a forklift for 6 years with only we're using earbuds and not proper hearing protection.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, I can one up that. I served in the artillery force in the military.
Nice.
Ever tried having a 5-hour drive in a tank? Without protection at all whatsoever?
No, I've only done it in a boat.
Yeah, so potato tomato, am I right? Anyways, sure. Before we derail the show even further, and less than 3 minutes in, we've already heard our first.
Stay on target. We're too close. Stay on target.
Well, that's usually what the beginning of any show is for, is it not?
Yeah, and usually we're supposed to start with the birthday section. So what do you say we get right onto that?
Let's do it.
Okay, this one's going to be a little tougher for me because for some reason my computer decides to be a jackass sometimes and just the birthday people are kind of flipped on my end. So let's try to see if we can get it in the right order.
Just seeing who has birthdays on the 9th and the 13th.
Well, the Eurovision, clearly. But we're not even going to get there because we're only doing from the 2nd to the 8th. So.
Okay, so next week. Okay.
Well, to be continued. So the first person we're going to be talking about here today was born on the 2nd of May, and it's actually a pretty interesting story. Mr. J. Barrett. You probably wouldn't recognize him. He only appeared in one episode of Doctor Who, but it was an interesting one. He was in the episode The Rescue, the episode that featured the debut of...
The frick was that?
I have no idea.
Isn't that emergency phone?
Yeah, someone's sending me incoming messages for some reason.
Oh my god! What the hell is that noise?
I thought I was finally free of inappropriate messages being sent during a show. But on a side note, you've never heard of the video game, the iconic video game known as Worms?
Yes, never played it, but I have heard of it.
It's from there.
Oh, okay.
So anyways, back to Jay Barrett. He was in the episode The Rescue, the debut of the lovable companion Vicky, where he played a dual role of both a disabled space pirate named Bennett, who for some reason needed to let off some steam, as well as the villainous Coquillian, who was keeping both him and Vicky hostages on the planet Dido. Now, here's where the interesting part is: he played both roles, both the unassuming disabled person as well as the villain, and obviously because it was a two-parter, and the producers didn't want to give away the fact that he's actually playing both roles. Um, they actually invented a fake name for whoever was playing Coquillion. So I believe can't remember the exact name at the moment because it's a bit late and I've had a busy long day, but it was somewhere along the lines of Sydney, no, something.
Hold on, Wikipedia.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. See if you can. Actually, I don't know if Wikipedia would tell you the fake name because it probably would have just show you the Jay's name.
Yeah, it does. Okay, let's go to his Wikipedia name. Keep going, and I will look this up.
So basically, it was a combination of Sidney Newman and the other guy who was running the TV drama section at the BBC at the time. So it was it was kind of a clever thing by the producers. Now here's another interesting part. This episode aired immediately after the Daleks' invasion of Earth, the TV version, and it actually outviewed and got more views than the previous one. So Jay Barrett, Barrett, I should say, for pretty much the remainder of his life, always used to boast how he outviewed the Daleks on Doctor Who. Now, speaking of the Daleks, I believe the first ever director of nope, sorry, my bad, it was a different person, but I mean a guy who has directed the Daleks Master Plan and various other TV episodes of Doctor Who back in the 60s and 70s is Mr. Douglas Camfield, who's also a unofficial doctor himself because of the Morbius Doctors, which I'm pretty sure I've already mentioned enough times on this show. So let's just move on. And also on the 5th, however, we have Mr. Terry Walsh. Not really a person you would recognize by name or face for that matter. He's mostly uncredited on a lot of stuff, but he was basically a stuntman on.
I got the name.
What?
I got the name.
What's the name?
Sidney Wilson.
Yeah, Sidney
It was
Wilson.
it was on his Wikipedia page.
Cool. The character or the actor?
The actor.
Yeah, so I think Robert Wilson or something like that. Robert Wilson, the head of the BBC drama department, and obviously Sidney Newman, the creator of Doctor Who. So Terry Walsh, I mean, he mostly did stunts during the classic era, as well as playing a stunt pirate, a unit soldier, autons, guards mostly. He even was a stuntman of the Doctor himself.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's pretty big. Now, next up, this is really our first major one. A woman without whom we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking today. The iconic and legendary Delia Derbyshire, who of course conducted the first ever Doctor Who opening theme, which lasted from William Hartnell's first season all the way to Tom Baker's penultimate season, with a few minor changes thrown in here and there. So it was actually in circulation between 1963 and 1979. So gotta give kudos to the woman who pretty much made the music of Doctor Who. Obviously, she didn't write the theme, but she had a pretty big contribution to that.
Yeah.
Right?
Basically, yeah.
Also on May 5th, I'm actually curious to see how you respond to this one. Richard E. Grant.
I love him.
Yeah, me too. I mean, he basically has 3 major roles in Doctor Who, 2 of which happen to be the Doctor himself.
I only know of 2.
What?
One where he's the what you call it, the Great Intelligence, and then I know he was in. Was it Red Nose Day thing?
Yeah, the Curse of Fatal Death.
Yeah, and those are the 2 I know.
By Stephen Moffat.
Yeah, those are the only 2 that I know.
And he also was a version of the 9th Doctor that never really happened in The Scream of the Shalka, the animated 40th anniversary special that was immediately superseded by the revival of the series.
That's cool.
Now, on the 6th of May, we have Miss Angela Bruce. She basically was the replacement for the Brigadier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was introduced as the Brigadier's replacement in the final TV episode to feature the Brigadier on Doctor Who, specifically Battlefield, as the new Brigadier Winfield Bombera. I apologize for mispronouncing the name. And she came back and reprised the role in the new Big Finish series featuring her interpretation of this new Brigadier.
Cool.
So
Right on.
that's pretty
I wish
big.
I'd have used her as a trivia question instead of the other one.
Yes, yes. To be honest, I probably have the exact same response to that question, but we don't talk about Bruno. I mean that question.
Yeah.
Anyway, so on the 7th of May, Mr. Valentine Diallo. I apologize for mispronouncing the name. I mean, you can pretty much tell from the picture, he was the Black Guardian.
He's a bird brain.
The bird brain, yes. He was the Black Guardian in all episodes featuring the Black Guardian, with the exception of no, actually, that does. In the Armageddon Factory, is just listed as Guardian, but in all other episodes featuring the Black Guardian, namely Morgan, Undead, Terminus, and Enlightenment, and sort of Logopolis, he's listed as the Black Guardian, obviously from the iconic Quest for the Key to Time storyline. Now, here is an interesting one from the 8th of May, and to be honest, there are a lot of people from the 8th of May, so let's just power through these. Aisha Antonin, I apologize for mispronouncing the name again. Obviously, from the picture, you probably recognize her as Dee Dee Blasco from the iconic episode Midnight.
Yeah.
But she also played a lot of characters, I've noticed, on Big Finish, primarily during the what is it? I believe it's from the Bernie Summerfield storylines, as well as some Iris Wildtime things and some of the 12th Doctor Chronicles from Big Finish. On also the 8th, so there's really no point in guessing the date. We have a somewhat controversial figure. We have Mr. John Bennett. He played the character of General Finch in Invasion of the Dinosaurs, as well as the extremely racist character Li Sang Chang in The Talents of Wang Chiang.
Oh, that's him.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's the guy. Our next person here really only has one Doctor Who credit to her name, but I mean, it's kind of tied in with the topic that we're talking about, so I decided to keep her here. Christina Cole from the Shakespeare episode with the witches. I'm pretty sure we're going to discuss that episode at some point very soon.
Yep.
Also on the 8th, Miss Phillida Law, as seen in this picture right here. She played the character of B. Nelson Stanley from the Sarah Jane Adventures episode Eye of the Gorgon, and as well as the character Balladonia in The Bride of Peladon, a pretty prominent figure in the Peladon trilogy, as I would say. And finally, and this is the most interesting one of the bunch, okay? Another person with only one entry in Doctor Who so far, Mr. Anwurin Barnard. I apologize again if I'm mispronouncing the name. He was recently cast as a villain in the first episode of Ncuti Gatwa's upcoming season 14.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, no, we don't exactly know who he's playing. He's some sort of a politician type. Some people have speculated he could be playing a new version of the Master.
Already?
Or he could, and again, this is just wild speculation going crazy. He could just as well be playing a younger version of Mavic Chen, Guardian of the Solar System. No word yet on who he's playing.
I
I
don't
just
think it'd be the Master. I think it's too soon.
I
You-
agree. I agree, but either way, it's an interesting thing to put on the list, and you know what? Only time will tell how significant to the Doctor Who realm he is going to eventually be. So, for the wonderful list of people that we had today, thank you all. We quite literally could not do this without you. And speaking of people who quite literally could not do this without, today's topic, as you probably would have guessed from the thumbnail, it's another history themed episode, but more specifically, the people of history. Now, there are two ways I could have gone with this. I could have just basically did the same thing we did last week with focusing on the pure historicals, the actual moments in history, in during which I realized I forgot one.
Yeah, and
Last,
it's actually when you were doing the birthdays, one of the people in there is going to be mentioned this episode as well.
yeah, sure. But I kind of realized that last week I may have forgotten one episode we probably could have talked about, the Myth Makers, which is basically all about the fall of Troy and the Trojan horse.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, I apologize for that, but I mean, it's a missing episode, so it is what it is.
It's also
But
missing from our episode.
yeah, it's missing in more ways than one. But I could have gone the same route with just the Doctor going through famous historical events. But while putting the show together, this episode together, I realized there are two ways I could have gone with this, like iconic historical events, or the people in history, famous iconic historical people, which you might actually be shocked to know that the modern series actually did a lot more than the classic series.
Really?
Yep. Yep. And we got at least one historical person from each Doctor, but I pretty much just went with all the historical figures that I could find. So before we jump into it, and by the way, I am planning on doing historical events at a later date because there are 5 Mondays this month, so
There
I
you
can
go.
afford to do that. So, Mr. Soda, at a guess, which famous historical figure would you say is the first on our list?
Charles Dickens.
You would be correct, sir. First introduced in The Unquiet Dead, the third episode of the modern series, written by Mark Gatiss, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And he also had a slight cameo in the Wedding of Rivers song. But are you a fan of Charles Dickens? Not the character in the show, but as a whole?
As I would say, just based on my enjoyment of the Christmas Carol, yes. That's the only work of his that I'm familiar with of the real Charles Dickens.
Which version of A Christmas Carol are you referring to, or all of them?
Well, just in general, like this story, like I enjoy the story, period, and I enjoy like how all the different riffs you have on it. Like example, about the Christmas Carol, Flintstones Christmas Carol, yada yada yada. But I mean, I like the story itself.
Yeah, I mean it's a very dynamic story, I would say, and very very iconic with
And
the lore that it introduces in the story itself.
And it's a timeless tale. Like yes, it was written in the 1800s, but the heart of the story, the theme of the story, still resonates in 2023.
Yeah, for people who celebrate Christmas, I might add. But
Well,
and now he's gone up.
I mean, Christmas is the package, but I mean like the true heart of the story. It can be
True.
relatable.
It's like you know what? It's like another Christmas story. It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, that's true. Which took me a really long time to see.
Yeah. Now, in fact, the story of A Christmas Carol is so unimaginably iconic. It was actually adapted into an episode of Doctor Who at one point.
Another one of my favorites.
Yeah, my favorite Christmas special, as a matter of fact. But with that, you might be actually surprised to say that this is really the only entry that we have for the Ninth Doctor.
Yep. Yeah.
Now,
No, but I was gonna say like we didn't really like he didn't really do much much in terms of interacting with famous people. I mean, he was there for like World War One, but that's about it.
Yeah, but he didn't meet any
Yeah.
notable historical figures, unless, of course, you're talking about Captain Jack. But
Right.
I wish he would have gotten more time on screen, but at least, thankfully, he's back doing the big finishes. So
Yeah.
we got that. Now, and I guess, outside of the Ninth Doctor, which Doctor would you say has the least interactions with historical figures?
I know it's not 10 or 11. I would probably say the latest one, probably. Whittaker.
The 14th Doctor? Well, naturally,
Whittaker.
yes.
Yeah, Whittaker.
She actually ties with Tennant.
Oh, then it must be Capaldi.
Yep. But we'll get to him when we get to him, because of course, we gotta talk about the girl in the fireplace.
Yes, and yes, Renette is a real historical character, folks.
Yeah, in case you didn't know, people.
Yeah.
So why don't you explain to us first about the real historical figure, while I later follow up with her significance in the episode.
Well, you kind of caught me off guard, so I'm actually not prepared for.
I thought you were.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I probably should have coordinated.
Give me a second. I can.
Okay, so I'll do my piece first, and then you do yours.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously, in true Stephen Moffat fashion, he never does things halfway. It always has to be grandiose. So there's this ship 2.5 galaxies away that punched a hole in the universe that allows people on the ship to go back 3,000 years into a 1700s France, essentially. And they mostly follow the life and times of one Miss Renette Poisson, waiting for her to reach the age of 38. No, I think it's 30. I'm pretty sure it is 38 until she reaches the age of 38. 37. Well, that was close. Only 1 year off, and then they can just take her brain and put it into the ship, because the ship, as they say, they don't have the parts to fix their ship. And of course, she has a great interaction with the Doctor, and essentially the Doctor pretty much imposes himself on her entire life. She basically imprints on him ever since she was a little girl, and he basically becomes her imaginary friend. And unfortunately, very tragically, he didn't really get a chance to take her with him as a full-time companion, because the ship itself was unstable with all the time windows, and the last time he actually made a jump to her life was in her final moments. And he read the letter that she gave him. So, are you good with the thing?
We're good. So yeah, basically, I'm just going to do a quick overview. But yes, the actual real Madame de Pompadour, whose name was Jean Antoinette Poisson. Yes, that was her real name. She was a member of the French court during the time of Louis XV, from 1745 to 1751. Basically, she was an advisor of sorts. So what she did was she made a schedule for his appearances and stuff like that, and she also was an advisor on some things like that. She was also a massive patron of the arts, including Voltaire. She was a highly influential person in the French court. She is a legit person. Just not many people know about her.
So, it sounds like she was kind of a secretary of sorts.
Kind of, yeah. I guess you could call her. That's what you could call her. Yeah, a secretary who also acted as a confidant. Yeah.
Now, if I were to pose this question for you, which is your favorite, Madame de Pompadour or William Shakespeare?
Oh, it's Shakespeare. Oh, it's Shakespeare. I mean, I love the chemistry between Renette and the Doctor. Don't get me wrong, it's a great episode, but this is for me like top 3.
Expelliarmus.
Yeah.
So of course, this is, as clearly seen in this picture, this is Shakespeare before he started suffering with hair loss.
Basically,
And
yeah,
they even made a reference to it in the episode itself. And the Doctor even gave him the collar that he was very famous for wearing.
yeah,
And
that's true.
and would you say that there's some sort of, how should I say, foreshadowing or referencing or callback to the fact that the Sycorax were basically
I was
lifted
just
from,
thinking that the word sycorax actually does come from a Shakespeare work.
yeah, and then that was David Tennant's debut episode, and they made a callback to it. But is it really a callback, or is it a foreshadowing just backwards? Because you know what, wibbly wobbly timey wimey and stuff.
It's a four-back. I guess I don't know. I'm with
You, my friend, have earned yourself one of these. But yeah, I mean, it is kind of complicated to try and say that. But
like Doctor Who.
yeah, Doctor Who. So, and speaking of foreshadowing or callbacks backwards or foreshadowing forwards, the episode itself also introduced another famous historical figure, Queen Elizabeth I.
Yes, yeah, and for years, like I mean, obviously, I watched. No, wait, I did watch this before I saw the special. But of course, you're wondering like, what the heck does she mean? Does he mean like we met before? That type of stuff, and of course, you end up seeing it in the poster that's behind me.
Yeah, but you know what? We might get to that while we when we get to that. But for years, people have wondered, like you said, what the hell did he do to upset
Yeah,
her? Like, clearly, it
with
was something
anything,
bad.
especially with this doctor.
Yeah, but I mean, this doctor really did have kind of a way with meeting people who already knew him before he knew them.
Yeah.
Case in point, River Song.
Yep.
But it was referenced in his final episode, The End of Time Part 1. Well, I suppose his penultimate episode. And I thought that was it. Like, for years, it was like, okay, so that's closure. And then, obviously, we get to see that in Day of the Doctor. But we will get to that. By the way, this was the second out of 3 times that the TARDIS was actually shot with an arrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
The first time I think was in Classic Who, right?
Yep, Silver Nemesis. And the third one was, holy crap, I just realized that all these episodes are actually going to be mentioned in this episode. So,
Cool.
Reminder: this is the first, this is the second.
Yeah.
And obviously, Queen Elizabeth is the first, is not the only Queen Elizabeth to be featured on.
Just
the
one
show.
more thing on the arrow. What I love the most about that is the continuity that continues into the next episode. When the TARDIS lands in the exit, you see the arrow right there,
and pulls it out.
Yeah, I love that little bit of
Yeah, and obviously, like I said, Queen Elizabeth I was the first, but not the last. Well, technically, she wasn't really the first, but she wasn't really the last Queen Elizabeth to be featured in Doctor Who, because we also kind of have the current, rather the at the time, late at the moment, Queen Elizabeth II making an appearance in Voyage of the Damned. Now, obviously, the Queen Elizabeth herself has been featured numerous times in the show's history, both in the classic series, as well as during her coronation, and even a lizard woman at one point.
That's what that was. Okay.
Oh, you looked ahead in the pictures?
Well, I had to scroll past them to get to the Seinfeld thing to alert you before we went on air.
Yes, thank you for giving away the farm during the show.
Hold on, but at 50, you gotta understand, like they're like the size of a freaking my half of my pinky. I can barely see them. Just this one's pretty noticeable.
Yeah, I guess it's not easy being green.
Mm.
But yeah, going back to this was actually the first episode where the TARDIS was hit by an arrow.
Nice. So I love that Elizabeth again.
Yeah, and there's this kind of funny moment where the Doctor is going through the Buckingham Palace, and then there's Queen Elizabeth II with her corgis. And obviously, it wasn't the real Queen Elizabeth, but it's still an interesting bit of cameo. But obviously, like I said, uh, clips from her coronation happened during the, rather, were shown during the episode The Idiot's Lantern, but her proper appearance on the show was in Voyage of the Damned, and I believe that was her voice. Last
Might
I
have been.
checked, I'm pretty sure. Obviously, the Queen herself, the late Queen, I should say, massive Whovian
Yeah,
for, which is kind of weird considering.
she is. It's the queen. You don't
Well,
expect
yeah, but I mean, it's
to be
kind of weird considering her, shall we say, her family lineage is being presented in kind of a weird way in the franchise. But I mean,
We probably have family stories that are weirder than that.
well, I suppose, but I mean, it doesn't. It's not really very flattering to her family lineage. But it is what it is. So obviously, we have had Queen Elizabeth I, Queen Elizabeth II, and of course, Queen Elizabeth X.
Yep.
So various different Queen Elizabeths have been featured in the show. But with that being said, who do you think is the next historical figure we have to talk about in the show? I'm just trying to see how well you remember some of these seasons.
Um. Yeah, we went quite a while, didn't we? It would have been in the next season. I know that. Agatha Christie.
Right, you are. And obviously, this episode is kind of a dual thing where it not only introduces a famous historical figure, but as well as a famous historical moment in that character's life. Obviously, it changes some of the finer details, but the basis of the famous story, it's all there. It's pretty much all there. So, uh,
Yeah.
giant wasps aside, what
Well,
did you
the
think
thing
about?
is, they did which is a smart way to deal with history. Is they took a moment that nobody really knows what happened, like it happened, but nobody knows what happened, and they did their own spin on it.
Yeah, as they usually tend to
Yeah.
do. And would you also say the same thing could be said about the Cuban Missile Crisis in the X-Men movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously that's what smart, intelligent franchises that deal with time travel in history do. They don't show everything that did happen and keep the rest of it mysterious. They show you their take on it,
Hmm.
but because it's so mysterious and unalluded to, they can do pretty much whatever they want with it, including introducing giant wasps. So, giant wasp aside, what are your thoughts on the episode itself?
It's a great episode. I've always found fascination with the BBC's version of the 1920s, and to see Catherine Tate be the one doing it was great. Um, I love that we have another future star in it with Felicity Jones. Um, yeah, no, overall, it's a great episode. It plays like an Agatha Christie novel, which is great. And the twist at the end when you find out where the wasp comes from, it's like, okay, it's a new one.
Now, uh, would you believe that this is not that Felicity Jones was not the only significant actor in the episode? Significant, I should probably rephrase that, in the realm of Doctor Who.
Oh, no, I didn't.
So the guy in the wheelchair,
Yep.
that's Christopher Benjamin, who played Mr. Henry Gordon Jago in The Talents of Wang Chiang, who then went on to star in his own spin-off series on Big Finish with, damn it, I'm forgetting the name, but he basically had Jago and Lightfoot.
Yeah. We've talked about this before. Yes.
I mention it any time I can.
Yeah.
Still to this day, the most successful and longest running series on Big Finish, spin-off series on
Wow.
Big Finish. Yeah, 14 seasons, and really the only reason they stopped was because the other guy, not Christopher Benjamin, passed away. So it's still still technically considered the longest running spin-off on Big Finish, but that is yet to change.
Mm.
Who will surpass it? Will it be the Gallifrey series or the Diary of River Song? Only time will tell. But now that we've discussed Agatha Christie, who would you say is the next person we're going to talk about?
Churchill.
You're finally wrong. It's Obama.
Oh, I forgot about the Obama cameo in that.
Yeah, that's why I set it up for you.
Oh, I forgot about the Obama cameo.
I knew someone would. Yeah, I almost forgot. But I mean, Obama is kind of a historical figure now, considering that he's no longer the president. But you know, obviously, Obama himself, another massive Whovian, which probably explains why he gave permission for
Really?
his name and his shall we say likeness to be featured on the show, as well as his actual voice, which I believe was taken from. It wasn't really him saying it, but it was him saying it. It was taken from a recording from a press conference a couple of years prior. So honestly, he didn't really say much, but obviously he had to give the approval.
In it.
What?
To the point where I forgot he was in it.
Yeah, and it was incredibly brief. So now we'll jump into another famous politician who had the biggest impact on the Doctor Who franchise as a whole, Winston Churchill.
Yes.
Now, Winston Churchill, Ian McNeice very famously played Churchill on stage for many years, and he was so good. Apparently, he was so good at playing it that they actually asked him to play Churchill on Doctor Who, and he moved on from that from a couple episodes of Doctor Who to Big Finish stuff. Like, he's still playing Churchill to this day, and it has been alluded to multiple times that he's met almost every single Doctor.
I believe that.
Yeah, like he has had other adventures with other Doctors, namely the 11th, 10th, and 9th. But also there's episodes with him and the 6th Doctor. There's also stuff with him with other Doctors from novels and from comic books. Now,
the reason why that makes the most sense is why wouldn't you have one of the most iconic TV characters have one of the most iconic British figures in history interact with them quite a bit? Like, that just makes sense.
Yeah. Now, here is a fun fact that I learned making this putting this list together. Did you know that one of the Doctors in real life has actually met Churchill himself?
No.
Now, who would you say that was?
Most likely would be Hartnell.
Wrong again. It was Pertwee.
Interesting.
Pertwee actually did serve in the British military, in the Navy, I believe, during World War II. He served in the British Navy alongside another random, unimportant person named Ian Fleming. No idea if you ever heard that name before, but
no,
actually
sounds vaguely familiar. Is that the guy that played what's this, the Red Devil guy in X-Men First Class? No, it's Jason Fleming. I'm done. I was going along with your own joke. Leave me alone.
I have way too many pictures here. It takes too long to get to the thing. But be that as it may, he was actually in conference rooms with Churchill himself, and even made a joke about it one time in an interview that he used to go around collecting Churchill's cigar buds that he threw on the floor and selling them to the Americans in like $25 a piece, which at that time was a fortune. So
that's funny.
but this kind of introduces an interesting conundrum for the Doctor. Like, imagine one of the Doctors traveling back in time to meet with Churchill in a conference room, and there's the actual real life John Pertwee standing there.
Ooh, I wonder if they would ever do that. You could technically do that.
They almost did something like that with another figure that we will be discussing today, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Now, would you believe me if I told you that there is one Doctor that Churchill refuses to see?
No. Who is it?
This guy.
Really?
Yep. So during the Seventh Doctor's, shall we say, midlife crisis, master manipulator thinking he knows better than everyone, he pretty much caused Churchill's downfall after the war.
Oh, yeah, no wonder he doesn't want to see him.
Yeah, but in his defense, it was part of history. So that's why he was trying very, very hard to keep history on the right track and avoid a catastrophic meddling in history from the meddling monk. Anyways, moving on. I think this is the one you really wanted to be here to see. And get your tissues ready. It's Van Gogh. Tony Curran, an iconic historical figure in Doctor Who.
This has to be the most iconic. Like his episode has to be the most iconic historical episode of New Who.
Yeah, I would like to make an argument for another one coming up, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
At the
but
very least, the last 3 minutes of this episode.
Especially, well, the other one I'm referring to also kind of does something similar to that, but this is an episode so iconic that even Taco watched it.
Really?
Yeah.
What did
he told me that when he was on the one episode he did on this show where he was in art school, and as part of the studies, they made them watch this episode specifically to learn a little bit about art.
What do you think?
He loved it.
Yeah.
Still didn't like it enough to watch Doctor Who regularly, but at least we got him to do that.
Which is good. But yeah, that those last 3 minutes is just so heartbreaking, because if you know anything about the real Van Gogh, he took his own life because basically he had mental health, which they didn't know about back then.
Which, I mean, it's very much on display in the episode. Like,
and like in his lifetime, his work was never recognized. It was only after his death.
And now his work is worth tens of thousands of dollars.
Some of it's probably priceless, and so it was just a lovely moment for a lovely thing for the Doctor to do, to pull him aside, like, because his death is a fixed point in time. It's good,
of course.
But it was nice of him to pull him and say, like, no, you do matter. You just don't know it.
And the best part about it is he didn't need to do that.
Nope.
I mean, the crisis was over. The alien was gone. Van Gogh could have just gone back to his regular life, but no, he went ahead and did that, which is not something, ironically, not something the Doctor does very often. Especially the 11th Doctor, who's pretty much, his whole thing is messing up history.
Yeah, no, he did a good thing.
Yep. The life is just a collection of good things and bad things, and the good things don't really lessen the bad thing, but on the other hand, the bad things don't really lessen the good things or make them unimportant. And I still remember I was studying art as well as in high school, and my favorite artist, my favorite historical figure, was Van Gogh, and they actually made an episode about it on my favorite show of all time. So in a way, I kind of felt like that episode was made for me. So that's why that episode is so incredibly special to me. Yeah. Obviously, the monster itself, I mean, take it or leave it, the rest of the story, but just seeing Van Gogh and the restaurant which he painted looked exactly like it was in the painting. His room looked exactly like it was in the painting. Like, they nailed the Van Goghness in this episode. It happened to have a monster in it that I couldn't really care too much about. But now we're kind of in a little bit of cameos territory. Who do you think is the next historical person?
This is where it starts to get a little muddy, because when it comes to historical people, like, I only remember the ones that are like full episodes. Like those are the ones that I can name right off the bat.
Like Churchill and like Van Gogh.
Yeah, and like and are we going to be talking about there's a fictional historical character?
I mean, I had planned on going for the fictional historical characters, fictional as well as in the realm of Doctor Who, like Captain Adelaide Brooke from the Waters of Mars, but
No, no,
I
no, no,
went with
no, no, no. I meant more of someone who robs from the rich and gives to the poor.
spoilers, but no,
Okay, okay,
not him.
okay. That's. I know it's not him, but like the gap between him and Van Gogh is kind of fuzzy for me.
Okay, so should I put you on?
No! I think I got it actually. It's Nixon.
Yes, you got there in the end.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second.
I just love at the end of the episode, he asks the doctor, "Do people remember me?" And he's like, yeah, sure, yeah, of course."
He didn't lie.
I mean, yeah, the doctor lies, but not in this case.
Yeah, in this case, he just kind of, didn't really give him the truth.
Yeah, no, obviously they kind of had to put Nixon there because of the rest of the story that there was going on around. But I mean, he didn't really contribute that much to the episodes that he was in, and really, this is really more of a. We'll talk more about it once we actually get around to the proper historical.
Yeah, but his interaction with the doctor were great.
Yeah, like him and Cancel just not noticing that the TARDIS landed in his office, and
Yeah.
he's just taking notes. And when he finally turns around, and he sees him. He's like,
My favorite thing though is when he went for the ride in the TARDIS, and he comes out and he's just like, "Hi, I'm President Nixon," like just stunned.
So now that we talked briefly about Nixon, do you remember the next one?
No.
Someone we have talked about last week's episode, briefly.
I'm sorry.
Captain Henry Avery.
Right. Blackbeard.
Yeah, not Blackbeard.
Blackbeard
Henry
Teach.
Avery is Blackbeard since when?
No. Sorry, Blackbeard was Edward Teach.
Yeah. So yeah, Henry again. Just like you said about Nixon, there's that moment where he walks into the TARDIS, and even though he's like a pirate from like the 1700s, he walks into the TARDIS and he immediately recognizes what every control does. He's like, a ship is a ship.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
I think his episode was him in the episode was really good. The rest of the episode, again, just like the Van Gogh one, it's pretty take it or leave it. There's an interesting mystery. Rory dies again, and some interesting concepts there. But
I actually enjoy this episode. I actually do enjoy this episode because it plays off of a real life superstition of women on board,
which isn't really specific for Henry Avery. It's just seafaring superstition in general as a whole.
Most famously in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah. Which, fun fact, the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, Curse of the Black Pearl, this episode is the Curse of the Black Spot.
Yep.
And I believe it also came out the same year that the fourth Pirates movie came out.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, 2011, I think. Easily the worst of the bunch, but never mind that. And I also loved him and his son showing back up in the Battle of Demon's Run. I just wish they were there more. I mean, it's basically like 3 seconds, blink and you'll miss it cameo.
Yeah, they must have filmed that when they filmed this episode.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many other things that we could have had in the Battle of Demon's Run. Like, did you know, by the way, did you know that in addition to all the people who were there, do you know who else was supposed to be in the big cabal of people that
yes,
the Doctor had? What?
Yes, I do.
Would you care to name it?
It's none other than Captain Jack Harkness.
True. I was referring to someone else.
Oh, then okay. Then I guess I don't.
So do you want me to tell you?
Yes. Well, yeah.
Ood Sigma.
Oh, really?
Yep. That's why if you look at the credits to the episode, you'll notice that there's a bit of a mention there of the Oods were created by Russell T Davies, even though an Ood doesn't actually show up in the episode.
Wild.
Yeah. But, I mean, thankfully, that episode did introduce us to Madame Vastra, Jenny Flint, and, of course, Strax. So really, who can complain?
Yes, the walking potato.
The Walking Potato. Now, the episode that immediately follows up A Good Man Goes to War. Will you please get back to your seat and stop?
Well, something happened to my
searching for
one
mice?
monitor, so I'm trying to fix it.
Oh, can you see me now?
Oh yeah. So you're on my other monitor, but the one that I normally look at, it went black. So I'm just trying to.
Oh, so I mean, I'm denigrated to the less important monitor. Sure, I get it.
So
But
that's why I'm trying to fix it to get you back to the important one.
oh, well, I'm sorry. So the next person that we're going to
There we
talk
go.
about, and it's another brief one, almost cameo-like appearance.
We're good.
Adolf Hitler.
Another great episode.
Yeah, very famously, Ben completely disagrees with the name.
Oh yes. Let's kill Hitler.
Yeah, Let's Kill Hitler, and Hitler only shows up for like 5 minutes. But he does shoot River Song before we even know it's River Song. So in a way, you could say that Hitler is responsible for the River Song that we know.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and of course, this episode, brief as it was for Hitler's cameo, we get this wonderful line.
Oh, I love that line. Take Hitler and put him in the cupboard over there. Yep.
Yep. And you know what that means?
No.
I don't know if you heard, but I'm pretty sure that episode kind of takes place before the declaration of World War II, and I'm assuming, based on real historical evidence, I'm assuming that at one point Hitler came out of the closet after that episode.
Oh, yeah. I have heard that. Well, I mean, look, they were walking around with their high stepping and wearing knee-high leather boots, of course.
Yeah. So this is like another what?
That's an old Robin Williams joke.
Yeah. So this is yet another example of Stephen Moffat sticking it to the racists.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That's really my favorite part about the Hitler cameo in the episode. Now, fun fact. Do you know who in the Doctor Who realm is responsible for, well, somewhat partially responsible for Hitler's near meteoric rise to power?
My first thought would be the Master.
That's an interesting one, but no.
I do not.
This guy again.
Really?
Yes.
God damn it. Sylvester McCoy, what the hell?
You can kind of tell why he's one of my least favorite Doctors. But now that's technically not McCoy's fault. It was in a novel. So, it is what it is. But it was during it was like the second part of a 4-part quadrilogy that just happens to be in and around World War II at one point. And I think the Doctors kind of save Hitler's life like 5 times during that novel. One time was when Ace tried to blow him up, but at this point you gotta make sure to keep history intact.
Yeah, and assume Ace is trying to blow someone up.
But on the bright side, close to Hitler's final days, he did show up and kind of was like, yeah, you lost, buddy. You're going to be remembered negatively throughout world history. So it kind of reversed Van Gogh Hitler.
Nice.
Now, of course, with the introduction of that novel, kind of implies that the Doctor was helping Hitler around the same time he was also helping out Churchill. Historical time. So, in the words of Ultron himself, keep your friends rich and your enemies rich, and wait to see which is which.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you know who the next historical figure we're going to talk about today is?
Nothing's coming to mind. I'm pretty sure I know it's with Smith as well, but
It might be
yeah. Sorry, I'm blanking.
Queen Nefertiti.
Right, that's right. Dinosaurs on a spaceship.
One of the best names for a Doctor Who episode ever.
Yeah, and one of my favorite moments. Dad, nobody writes Christmas letters to Santa anymore. I do.
Did you see the?
I did. I saw the thumbs up. That's the like the perfect cap on Rory's. Like, yeah, good for you.
Yeah. Not just that, just the dynamic between Rory and the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Like later in the episode, Rory has an idea, and the Doctor runs up to him and is like, "Good job, Rory!" and kisses him on the mouth. Tries to implement the idea and fails. He's like, "Oh, that's not good. Gave me hope for nothing."
Yeah, it's the best.
So in real Doctor Who lore, Nefertiti is kind of the nephew of one of the Fifth Doctor's companions, Erimem.
You mean
Or rather,
niece?
Erimem Ushim Teperem. So yeah, did you know that the Fifth Doctor had a pharaoh as a companion at one point?
No, but I'm pretty sure you meant niece, not nephew. Yeah.
Hey,
Yep. I just Costanza you.
I just would like to apologize on behalf of myself for all the women who might be watching this episode. I am a dumb man. Please forgive me. So
And it's also right now 12:30 in the morning over where he is.
True. And I've had a pretty busy day today. So again, like we said with Agatha Christie, it's another Doctor Who spin on what happened to the real Queen Nefertiti.
Yeah.
Because she's one of the few pharaohs that actually went missing during her reign.
Mm-hmm. To me, it just makes sense.
Yeah. Now, here's a moment we've alluded to recently, and we're actually on to the final Smith era historical figure. So I'm not even going to do the guessing game again.
Yeah.
Queen Elizabeth
I. Yes.
Now,
the wife of the 10th Doctor.
one of them.
Yeah.
Now, here's a question. Do you think the introduction that this is a part of the Doctor's history that we needed to see?
No, but it was fun.
I agree. I mean, Russell T Davies pretty much put a cap on it in the End of Time, where that's all he really needed, just a passing by mention, and they moved on with the episode.
No, but I think for the storyline purposes, it worked.
Yeah, because I think this might have been a story that Stephen Moffat wanted to do, and he was kind of bummed that Russell never did it, so he did it himself. And what better place to do it in than the 50th anniversary special, where David Tennant was already supposed to come back anyway.
Yeah, no, it was great stuff. Surprisingly funny stuff with him and her.
Yeah, I just wish we didn't have
that's right, the horse.
It was the horse. I'm gonna be king. This is one part I did not appreciate about that episode. Is the
what's his hair?
Well, yes, obviously, but it's just this annoying Stephen Moffat persistence on making the Doctor look like an idiot, especially when he's around Clara. Like, I always say this: Clara is like the Doctor's kryptonite. Like, whenever she's around, he's a bumbling buffoon. Like when they got locked up in the Tower of London.
Yeah. I like it. I think I'm easy. We all know that.
Yeah. So
I don't have such high standards when it comes to this stuff.
True, and you probably know me by now. Whenever I see this kind of stuff happening in Doctor Who, this is my response.
I don't like this thing, and here's what I'm doing with it.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah. So speaking of Clara Oswald, now we're on to the Doctor with arguably the weirdest collection of real historical figures that we have here on this list. Starting, of course, with the aforementioned, or rather alluded to, Robin Hood.
Love this episode.
I love the portrayal of Robin Hood. I hate the overabundance of focus on Clara. This is one of those episodes that really emphasize the whole. No, it's Clara's show. The Doctor just happens to be in it.
It's okay, 50. Breathe. Plus, we also get the introduction of the famous spoon.
I am the Doctor, And this is my spoon. You know which other doctor also had an obsession with spoons?
Probably, I would think two.
It's amazing how we keep coming back to this guy again.
Frig, really?
Yeah, so Sylvester McCoy in real life was a professional spoon player.
Oh, cool.
And he actually brought that into the show when he was
That
the
takes
doctor.
some talent.
Oh yeah, the guy literally started from a traveling circus show, and this was one of his acts.
Cool.
It actually has one of the funniest stories and one of my favorite behind the scenes stories in Doctor Who. Like when I think he started off as part of that traveling circus show as like one of the cleaning staff, and like they were short on one act one day, and someone was like, "You're going on stage right now," and the rest is, as they say, is history. That's how they got into the show,
Nice.
and that's how he developed. That's how he further developed as an actor, eventually becoming one of the doctors.
Right on.
So, I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of the episode. I do like the Robin Hood stuff.
Yeah, for me, because I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum for Clark. Like I've always, you know this, I've always seen where you're coming from, but it never really bothered me. I thought it was one of the best episodes from that season. Me personally.
And I think this is another episode we're going to have the same disagreement on, because, like I said, the 12th Doctor had the weirdest collection of historical figures that he's met, and the other one is Santa Claus.
Yeah, I this was an interesting one as well.
I mean, Nick Frost is Santa Claus. How could you go wrong, right?
Yeah. I kind of like how they portray Santa Claus as a badass here.
Yeah, just like the Santa Chronicles.
Yeah, it's not on the same. Well, I was gonna say it's not on the same vein as that Santa movie that just came out.
Bad Santa? No, not Bad Santa. What was the name of it?
Oh God,
With David Harbour.
Yeah. But anyways, it's not that quite a badass, but still badass.
Yeah. I mean, again, I love Nick Frost's portrayal of Santa Claus. Not the biggest fan of the episode. It's either my least favorite or second least favorite Christmas special.
That first season kind of partially led to me kind of losing interest in Who. Like it's just wasn't the best series.
I honestly think that Capaldi's first season is one of the worst seasons of all time, and his second season is one of the best of all time.
Yeah.
But I will contend. I will harp on this point for the rest of my life. I think that Capaldi, in my opinion, had arguably the worst first season of any Doctor, and the only reason I say arguably is due to a technicality.
Why is that?
Because one Doctor didn't really get a proper first season.
Yeah,
I was actually referring to 6, but never mind.
Oh yeah, okay, fair.
I would argue that Paul McGann's movie is better than whatever the hell Colin Baker got with the Twin Dilemma. It was like one serial. Like, it's an unprecedented event in Doctor Who. They introduced him in the Regeneration episode was the penultimate of the season, and the finale was his introduction episode where he choked Perry to the ground.
I didn't realize that was the end of that season. I know that.
Yeah, that's how they chose to not only end the season but also introduce a new Doctor.
They really gave Baker the shaft.
Thankfully, though, he got a second coming in Big Finish, and now he's one of my favorite Doctors. In fact, I would even say he's an S-tier Doctor, if not for the TV stuff. But moving on to that, who do you think is the next historical person that Capaldi met during his run? Remember, go to the weird and bizarre.
I know I'm picturing. It's not a pope, is it?
Well, it might be.
Pope John Paul?
I think it was still around the time of Benedict the 16th.
Oh,
I think. But, I mean, they never actually mentioned him by name, if I remember correctly, so it could be both. But I think based on... he was Italian, wasn't it? No, was he Italian or was he speaking Spanish? Huh?
Benedict, I believe, was Spanish.
No, I think he was Argentinian, but I was talking about the Pope in the episode.
Oh, that I don't remember.
I think in the episode he was speaking Italian, so it could be Benedict. It could be
No, Benedict was German.
Benedict was German.
Hmm.
Oh, right. The one that replaced him was Argentinian.
Mm.
Yeah. So I mean, either way, it's the Pope. Who cares? I mean, they brought the Pope to Doctor Who. Doesn't matter which one it was, and they even alluded to the fact that
Pope Francis.
Francis. Yes,
That's the one we're thinking of.
So they also alluded to the fact that the Doctor may or may not have met Pope Benedict X, who was a woman.
Oh, interesting.
Now there really was a Pope Benedict X around that same time. It just wasn't a woman, for obvious reasons, because religion, women don't matter, right?
Yeah.
Stupid
Even
thing.
though, Jesus.
But this was I think like this moment, it was Stephen Moffat really trying to stick it to the
man.
the faith, and saying that one of the popes was a woman. I think that was going a bit too far, but I mean, it was revealed at the end that it was all just an illusion, so it didn't really matter anyway.
And there you go.
Okay, so now we're on to the final Doctor, and when it came time for Jodie Whittaker to start meeting real life historical figures,
and this
they
is another
did
one
not.
too.
What?
This is another one that was alluded to earlier.
Yeah, this one I alluded to. They did not disappoint. They really opened with a bang. In fact, I would say that all of the historical figures introduced during the 13th Doctor's era were complete bangers. And of course, we're starting off with Rosa Parks.
Oh, this was such a good episode. And as I alluded to earlier, played by Vinette Robinson.
Yep, of course. Wait. When did you allude to this?
When I said earlier that somebody mentioned in the birthdays we will be talking about later.
We never talked about Vinette Robinson. As a matter of fact, I'll say this: Vinette Robinson's exact birthday is not listed anywhere.
Huh.
I pass by her name when I'm doing the birthday sections for the show every single week, and I never once find her, and it's frustrating.
I thought we talked about her earlier.
No, you were talking about Aisha Antonin.
Oh my God! I confused the characters. Yeah, sorry, I confused the characters.
To pull a Seinfeld joke on you, I suppose they all look the same to you.
No, sorry. No, I thought it was the character in 42.
Well, that was Vinette Robinson, but it wasn't.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I just got confused.
Either way, that was another one. That was the one that I alluded to earlier. This, in many ways, is Jodie Whittaker's Van Gogh episode.
Totally, this is a great episode. And actually, what's my favorite thing about it is what happens with God. What's the grandpa's name again? Graham. What happens to Graham when he realizes that it's him?
Yeah, that he has to be the white guy that Rosa Parks gets banned from the bus over.
Yeah. Can you imagine having to live with that?
Yeah. Well, no, obviously, but I mean, it's horrible. Yeah. And it happens. I mean, the worst part about it is it happens to Graham.
He's one of the nicest characters
ever. Just like the Van Gogh episode, the last 3 minutes with the the song "Rise Up" at the end. Like, to me, in my opinion, this is easily by far the best Jodie Whittaker episode, which was very recently almost overthrown by another episode we might end up talking about today. But I think the Jodie Whittaker era gets a lot of flack. Some of it necessary, some of it, in my opinion, is going a bit too far. But I don't think you can deny this episode, in my opinion, is a TV masterpiece.
This is there's a lot of movies and stuff coming out within the last, more so in the last 20 years about the civil rights movements and stuff like that. I would actually throw this in there as one of the best representations of the civil rights movement, along with movies like Selma and stuff like that. I would say it's in the conversation.
Yeah, this episode really, I mean, it took home all the awards that you could think of. So clearly they knew what they were doing when they made this episode.
Yeah, and this is one of the few episodes that I was actually able to see during its initial run with Whitaker.
Yeah. But the other episode featuring a historical figure in it, have you seen The Witchfinders?
Which isn't that's not the one where we first meet me, is it?
Dude, that's Capaldi.
Oh shit, then no. No.
So anyways, The Witchfinders kind of takes place in Salem during the Salem witch trials. But actually, that wasn't Salem. That wasn't in Salem. That was in Britain.
How cool that Alan Cummings is in an episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah. As King James of all people.
Yeah.
And he steals the show.
Naturally.
Like, Vinette Robinson was great as Rosa Parks, but Alan Cummings is just magnificent, magnetic. You cannot take your eyes off him. He's so good. Have you seen that episode, by the way?
I have not, no.
You probably should. It's really good. And
I remember him being announced that he was going to be in it, and that's about it.
That's a shame, but I mean, again, just like the Van Gogh episode, the monster, take it or leave it, but I think this episode's worth a watch for Alan Cummings, and if for no other reason than the fact that this is one of the, in my opinion, one of the few rare episodes where there's actually some attention being drawn to the fact that the Doctor is now being treated differently from other people because she's a woman. Like, there is so much that they could have done with that concept of the Doctor being a female for the first time. I don't think they did a good enough job representing that, like the different the gender differences. But this episode is one of the few that, in my opinion, actually does do a good job portraying that.
Nice.
And moving on, like I said, we're gonna skip one for obvious reasons, but there's one that, again, like I said, the Jodie Whittaker era's historical figures episode, I think they're all bangers. And another one of my favorites is the Nikola Tesla episode.
Oh, I didn't know that they had an episode with Tesla.
Oh, yes, they did. And this was actually kind of a double header. We get Tesla and Edison in this episode.
Oh.
It's a really, really good episode. It introduces this new race called the Skithra, who basically all they do is they steal technology from any other race they come across. And because they steal it, they don't know how it works. So when it does break down, what do?
They go to the two of the smartest scientists in the history of Earth.
Yeah, I mean, they just find a random scientist from a random planet, kidnap them, and it's like, you fix it for us. You fix it for us. I'm like, dude, come on.
Sounds
and
like
also the what?
Sounds like a metaphor.
I don't know about that, but the Skithra Queen, also played by Anjali Mohindra, very famously, she was Rani Chandra in the Sarah Jane's Adventures, and she's also married to the Master, Sacha Dhawan.
Cool.
Very, very cool. Now,
Okay,
speaking of pseudo companions, this next historical figure was actually a companion of the Eighth Doctor and Rick Finish, Mary Shelley.
No.
I told you years ago that they made the whole story of Mary Shelley in that mansion where she wrote Frankenstein. They turned that into an episode, and you still somehow forgot to watch it.
Remember, Stoner.
Of course, yeah, of course. That's why you get a pass. But I mean, they didn't just go for Mary Shelley. They went for the whole package. I mean, Lord Byron was there. Dr. Polidori was in the episode. It's just I kind of find it kind of funny that Mary Shelley was both a companion of the Eighth Doctor, and she made the 13th Doctor, presumably on the same night.
Yeah, and what's great about that is you can make an argument that without Mary Shelley, we wouldn't have Who.
So that I mean that's why they decided to put her in an episode.
Yeah, because she's considered one of the forefathers, for lack of a better word, of sci-fi with
Four
Frankenstein.
mothers. Four mothers.
Foremothers, yeah, this doesn't quite have the same ring, but yeah, a foremother of science fiction with the novel Frankenstein.
Yeah. So and again, in my opinion, they did the character and the story justice, and also introduced another really great character in Asha the Lone Cyberman. So it's another one of those episodes worth a watch, especially if you're a horror fan.
Dig it.
Now, the next historical figure in one of my favorite episodes from the Flux series, either my top favorite or second favorite. The episode is called War of the Sontarans, where the 13th Doctor meets Mary Seacole. Are you familiar with Mary Seacole from the Crimean War?
No, I've never heard of this person.
So many people say that Mary Shelley is one of the four mothers of sci-fi. Mary Seacole is actually considered one of the four mothers of modern medicine. She was a nurse during the Crimean War, in one of the few cases of she was a nurse. She took in British soldiers as well as the Russian soldiers, or in this case, Sontarans, because the Sontarans perverted the course of human history, like the Doctor alluded to many times before,
Naturally.
and just replaced the Russians in the Crimean War for some reason.
Nice.
Yeah, as messy as that season was, I think that episode was very, very good. And the portrayal of Mary Seacole was actually, in my opinion, done really, really well. And speaking of other episodes that were kind of a mess, but I think the portrayal of the historical figures was done really, really good. Madam Ching from The Legend of the Sea Devils, the penultimate episode of the show at the moment, at the time of this recording. So yeah, first of all, the Sea Devils are back. Thank you very much. Took a bit too long, in my opinion, but at least they're back. And like I said, the episode itself is pretty messy, but it's great to see the Sea Devils again. And I think the historical portrayal of Madam Ching, the pirate queen, was done really good. I like her story arc in the episode. And just, I mean, look at this picture.
Yeah,
This
it's a badass
amazing.
picture.
Yeah, the costume design, the design of her ship. I mean, this episode you can clearly see there's great production design, just not the best writing, which I suppose in a way is indicative of the Jodie Whittaker era as a whole. Great cinematography, great visual effects, great costume, great portrayal of historical figures, with really good acting, great set design. Just the writing was not there for most of it. But now we're on to the final historical figure and the most recent historical figure introduced in Doctor Who. Rah, rah, Rasputin, lover.
Oh, yes. The episode that was responsible for bringing that song back to the charts.
I mean, it was already back in the charts thanks to the recent Kingsman movie.
Oh, that's right.
But this episode is where the song really blew up again. And I am ever so thankful for it, because I made a video with that song featuring the Master, and it now has about 2,000 views. So
yeah,
thank you for that, Doctor Who. But I mean, the Master is Rasputin now.
Makes sense.
Huh?
Makes sense.
Makes it, and it makes sense almost as much as it doesn't. But I mean, it's another one of those mysterious historical figures we don't know that much about. So it's another great example for the Doctor Who writers to play around with.
Well, they don't really know how he. Well, they don't. I've read over 700-page book on this guy. They know quite a bit. They just don't know how the hell he was able to control the family.
Answer:
I
am the Master, and you will obey me.
That's why I said this is perfect. Like that is something the Master would do.
Will you stop interrupting me?
I said, answer, I am the Master and you will obey me. That's where I was going with this. But I mean, I love the episode. It almost dethroned Rosa as my favorite Jodie Whittaker episode, but the I think most people can argue that the best part about that episode was, well, one of the best parts about that episode was the song and dance routine with the Daleks and the Cybermen looking at each other as like, we made a deal with this idiot.
If anything was going to go viral, it was that moment.
Definitely. And case in point, my video is at 2,000 views. So thank you, Rasputin, for that. And obviously, this was, like I said, the last episode of the Jodie Whittaker era, where I guess Rasputin died on another planet because he was the master all the time. And of course, he was partially responsible for the Doctor regenerating into David Tennant for some reason. That is a story for another time. So I would say this. Which of these historical figures would you say is your favorite?
So, okay, so from what vantage point are we talking? Like from the actual historical vantage point, or are we talking from the character in Doctor Who?
You know what? Let's just go for both.
Okay, so my favorite historical person in terms of them appearing in Doctor Who, I have to go Shakespeare because I love that episode so much. It has to be William Shakespeare. Now, in terms of actual historical people, I mean, you can't go wrong with Rosa Parks. Or no, Rosa Parks or Mary Shelley. You can't go wrong with either of those. Those are two significant women in history. Like I said, one of them is a significant person in the civil rights movement, and the other, like I said, foremother of science fiction, without whom we probably wouldn't be here talking about Doctor Who.
True.
So you can't go wrong with those. And Mary Shelley's life itself is a fascinating life. So I actually do recommend looking that up if you're interested.
For me, personally, for personal reasons, my favorite person here, it's gotta be Van Gogh because, like I said, I literally studied about this guy in high school, and he was my favorite artist that we studied. So, like I said, I feel like that episode was made for me. But with how certain people have affected Doctor Who as a wider franchise, it's gonna be Churchill because of all the other stories that featured this character both in novel form and in Big Finish audio forms. Now, before we wrap this up, can you tell me which historical figure I completely forgot about because StreamYard was being a bitch and deleted some of the images before we started the show? Someone pretty important. What?
Can you give me a doctor?
That would probably be a dead giveaway, but 10.
Historical figure.
Someone pretty important in the realm of Doctor Who that StreamYard threw out because related to another character we're talking about.
Queen Victoria.
Yeah, thanks a lot, StreamYard.
Yeah, Queen Victoria, another great episode. And one of the cool things about this is that once again they took something that is actually true and they made a little twist on it, and that is the fact that the Queen Victoria's family and descendants are hemophiliacs, I believe.
Yeah. Hemophilia. So
and we get the first utterance of the word Torchwood.
No, we do not. This was not the first mention of Torchwood.
Well, it's where the idea for Torchwood came from in Doctor Who universe.
Yeah, and it's kind of a double header because we not only get a great historical episode, we get the Doctor Who spin on a real historical moment, but also this episode has a lingering effect on the rest of the series going forward. And I think we can about wrap this up. At least, unlike the myth makers from last week, at least I remembered last minute the thing that I forgot about.
And I'm disappointed that it took me so long to figure that one out because I'm just like, who did we miss? Oh, fucking Victoria! Great episode because it's the first. Is this still the only time we hear Tennant speak in his native accent?
That's not his native accent, by the way.
When he goes Scottish?
His actual native accent is slightly different from the one he does in the episode.
Oh, never mind.
But it is a Scottish accent. Like that. That's how versatile he is as an actor.
Mhm.
But, Mr. Soda, can we rely on you for the next time we have something to talk about, something historical to talk about?
Of course. You're talking the historical events, right?
Yeah, we talked about the people this week. We're going to talk about the events. I'm not exactly 100% sure if it's going to be next week or the week after. Just got to figure out some scheduling stuff. But until then, where can the good people of the interwebs find you?
You can find me on my personal Instagram and Twitter at soda_the_saxman. You can find me on this channel, doing Fun with Flags with 50 and guesting quite frequently on this show as well. And you can find me some Mondays or Fridays doing live watch along on Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown over on Hotel Nerd Network. And then coming up in a couple weeks, we are going to be launching, myself and my friend Diggin, we're going to be launching So Diggin Wrestling, our wrestling channel, where we're going to be having top 10 lists. We're going to be having our weekly news show, which me and Dagan do. 50 is going to be helping us out with a show, which is going to be pretty cool. Yeah, it's gonna be fun to come check it out.
So does the name So
Dagan?
Dagan? Yeah, is that like a riff on Soda and Dagan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I picked up on that.
Yeah, SDW, So Dagan Wrestling.
So, now all that being said, you can find me here every Monday talking about the historical show in more ways than one, that is Doctor Who, every Monday as well as every Thursday on Fun with Flags with this wonderful gentleman right here, where we talk about our individual countries. You can also find me on my own YouTube channel, 50 Shades of Geek, where, as I mentioned, the Rasputin episode is the Master Rasputin video is at around 2,000 views at the moment. And I also do weekly reviews of every single Doctor Who episode from 1963 all the way to 2022. And you can also check out all the other channels on this Bedverse network. Our good friend Taco in his currently inactive channel, Something to Talk About, Galaxy Geeks, the Multiverse of Geekdom, Ben's Legacy channel, obviously, Movie Lovers Unite, The Midnight Cinema, and A-Town Reviews. So on behalf of all of us here at the greatest show in the galaxy, thank you all for watching, and in the words of Misty herself,
don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thank you for watching. Goodbye.